Good afternoon. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today. We'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get started. All right, we'll get going. My name is Saskia. I'm your host for today's webinar, and thank you very much to everyone who's dialed in today. It's a lovely sunny afternoon in London, so I hope it's lovely wherever you are reaching us from. Today's conversation is going to be focused on the food and beverage industry and specifically how we can solve the carbon data gaps within it. I've been really looking forward to this discussion and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started with a few housekeeping items. Today's session will be 45 minutes. We will be recording it, so please don't worry if you can't scribble down all of your notes fast enough. We'll share everything after the session. And please, please, please do ask questions throughout. We really want to hear from you. What's on your mind? What challenges are you facing in your role at your business? You can add questions on the lower right-hand corner where it says questions, and please don't wait till the end, ask throughout, and we've got some dedicated time at the end of the session for a Q&A, and we will endeavour to answer as many of them as possible then. So who do we have on the lineup today? So we're absolutely honoured to invite Sofie to join us from Jordana's group. Sofie is the Director of ESG Communication and Public Affairs, and she'll be joining us in a discussion with Rohan, one of our climate strategy advisors here at Normative, to discuss the work they've been doing on their sustainability journey in partnership with Normative. We're also joined by Lucas, who is a product manager here at Normative, and he's been really leading the work we've been doing in focusing on getting food and beverage emissions into our platform, and he'll be showing a little bit more about the work that's happened there and diving a bit into the regulatory landscape as well. And finally, that's me, Saskia. I'm your host for today. My role is to make sure that Normative continues to grow so that we can support more companies like you on your sustainability journey. So in terms of the agenda, we'll start off by sharing a little bit more about Normative and setting the scene around what does carbon reporting actually mean in terms of the food and beverage industry. We'll then be moving into a discussion between Sofie and Rohan, really digging into the approach that they've been taking at Jordana's group. Then Lucas will share more on that regulatory landscape that's impacting companies like you. And finally, the work we're doing to help close those data gaps. And as mentioned at the start, we'll finish with a Q&A, so please do add your questions throughout the conversation. So who are Normative? So we are one of the original players in the carbon accounting space. We're a carbon accounting engine, and we've been around for more than 12 years. We're most well known for our scientific rigor and accuracy of reporting. as demonstrated by the 100% success rate on our customer audits. Something I'm personally very proud of is the 93% service customer satisfaction score that we have. Part of my role is to make sure that our customers have a positive, productive, valuable partnership with us. So we're incredibly proud of that. And we work with customers across many industries, but that also includes many leading companies within that food and beverage sector. So here's just an example of some of our customers that we partner with in tracking and reducing their carbon emissions. And you can see Jordana's group there on the page as well. And we're really thrilled to have them join us today on the call. So I'll be handing it over to Rohan now to share a little bit more about the nuances of the food and beverage industry and why it deserves its own sustainability conversation.
Thank you so much, Saskia, for the introduction as well. And I really want to just quickly set the scene on why the sector specifically deserves its own conversation. Because when we talk about sustainability, food and beverage really stands apart as it is where you finally see climate, nature, and people interact almost every day. So be it from how the food is grown to how it's packaged, transport, every single part of the value chain has a huge environmental and social impact. So basically, to sum it up, all the challenges are big, but the opportunities for change are also quite big as well. So to start things off, we want to hear from you. What is, in your opinion, your biggest challenge in the food and beverage emissions reporting? I think the poll will be there in your screen right now, so please take a moment to respond, and your answers will definitely help us guide our discussion today. I'm just going to give it a minute. I see that it's still coming in. But then thank you for the ones who've answered it. It really is going to help us with understanding how you have faced the different challenges. But when we want to explore as to why the conversation is quite critical, we need to start by understanding what the challenges are. And to start off with, the scale of the problem is quite clear. If we just talk about EU, 1/3 of EU's emissions come from food systems, but it doesn't really stop here. I do have a lot of conversations with my clients, and one of the biggest pain points that I hear is the Scope 3 emissions. And on average, we see about 90% of the emissions for food and beverage companies sitting outside of their direct control. So basically across their suppliers, farmers, and distributors. And what I also often hear is that it feels quite overwhelming to even know where to start. But all hope is not lost, because I also have seen companies progress as well. And these are the ones that really zero in on the hotspots. And what do I mean by hotspot is that is the areas that can really drive the biggest emission reductions. Instead of just trying everything at hand on trying to tackle everything at once, just prioritizing things that have the biggest emissions. Another common theme that I hear a lot is around transparency. So basically, a lot of companies tell me that fragmented reporting and having inconsistent data over time, inconsistent supplier data or data that they collect themselves, makes it almost impossible to report or even manage it. And in fact, this is what statistics tell as well. As you can see, more than 3/4 of the world's largest food producers, and this is only for the ones that report on agricultural emissions, they struggle with consistency and comparability over time. So to sum it up, it's no surprise that sustainability teams feel overwhelmed. But from what I've seen, that even in this complexity, like taking a structured approach and building a strong engagement with suppliers can really shift the needle towards positivity. And with all that context, and I really know that proposing solutions theoretically is not all, it's just not one thing to just talk about solutions, but to see them in action is where you really get the confidence in also applying. And that is why I'm super excited to welcome Sofie from Jordan's group. And Sofie is here to give us a real world view of the challenge and steps Jordan's is taking. Sofie, thank you very much and welcome. Could you just start with a small introduction to Jordan's?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rohan, so much. It's great to be here. I'm glad to be able to talk to you guys today. So Jordan's is a Norwegian company, and we own and develop a brand of brands that are part of everyday life for millions of Scandinavians. And today we have 3 portfolio companies. We have Skansa, that is in food production, and where most of our products are based on Norwegian agricultural produce. We also have Deli, our restaurant business, and last, the Feel Good company that specializes in fitness and beauty.
Thank you for the small introduction. And now I'm really going to put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
So I would really like to hear from your perspective on the bigger picture as such. So from your experience, what would you consider as the main challenges that Jordan's face in the food and beverage sector? And how would you compare it with your other divisions that you mentioned, like fitness and beauty?
Well, we make cheese, sausages, and chips, Rohan. Well, milk alone represents a major part of our emissions. So it's hard to replace milk when you make cheese. So that is one of our biggest challenges, how to reduce our climate impact in the future. But this is a difficulty that we must solve in food and beverage. Whilst, for example, in the Feel Good company, it's completely different. Climate emissions are not a priority, but here is rather the social rights of workers in our value chain, which is important. Mm-hmm. The one challenge that is across all companies is packaging, which is will also be difficult in the future. And if you throw in food waste there, then you will have our 4 top priorities in Jordan's.
That is quite interesting, and it always is in line with what I also hear from the market as well. But shifting to more on what actions. So are there some steps that Jordan's is taking to make sustainability in food and beverage a bit more accessible, or are there any initiatives that you have with your value chain or maybe an inventory management that has made a difference?
Yeah, so we have made some changes that are interesting. I would just like to say first that reducing our scope 3 emissions is the biggest challenge that we have going forward, and that's our long-term challenge. But we have some short-term challenges that are more important and more pressing, and that's reducing our scope 1 and 2 by 50% within 2030. That is something that we have to address now. And also packaging is a huge challenge. We have both our own goals that we need to reach by 2030, but also EU regulations, and we need to be compliant. So there are a lot of things that has to be solved now, and that is difficult, but I think doable. When it comes to concrete actions that we have done, ingredient optimization is one of the things that we have to do, and we have done that in one of our products that has been a success so far. It's a bit early to talk about it externally, but I hope that by February next year, we can communicate a substantial cut in our scope 3 emissions in one of our brands. And that is very exciting to see that it's possible if you are a bit creative with your ingredients.
That's super nice. And in terms of understanding your hotspots, you really nailed it there, I feel. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a good reduction in Feb. But you also mentioned the importance of the value chain partners. And that kind of brings me to what Normative's role is in your journey, and how the partnership with Normative has advanced your sustainability goals, or has there been a better understanding of emissions, and how have you reduced your carbon footprint there?
So Normative, the Normative platform is, of course, and will be in the future a major part of our success. If we are to succeed, Normative has to succeed with us. And getting better data quality and identifying our low-hanging fruits, that is super important. And also to be able to document our process going forward. We all know that that reporting will be tighter, stricter, and we will also have accountants coming in and checking our reporting. So it's important that is all in order. And I feel that Normative is really helping us there. But also this is a journey that we're doing together, and we continue to improve each other. And we always, I think from our side, okay, we have to provide better data, and then Normative has to be able to make it easier to collect data and to analyze the data. And I feel that this is something that we're doing together, which is great. And for us, it's super important that we have always correct and relevant emission factors. Local emission factors are important for us, but also getting emission factors down to ingredient level, which I saw we're not the only one when I saw the poll just a few minutes ago that are interested in this. So we're 1 year into our partnership, and so far I'm super excited. I'm happy with our relationship. One of the biggest successes that we've had together so far is that we have a complete carbon footprint for the Jordanus Group, nearly complete, which I'm happy about, and that we together are sort of improving each other on this journey, which I think is pretty great.
That is super nice to hear, and I'm very happy. That's something that we really thrive off, is getting your feedback in and putting it in the platform, and that is something that we are doing quite often. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear more from my colleague Lucas as well. But just to wrap it off, if I can ask just an open-ended question. So what advice would you give for someone in your position, or to companies that are just starting their sustainability journey?
Yeah, so I've been working with sustainability now since 2018. And I would say that if I should give one general advice, it would be to make the CFO and the controller team responsible for climate emission data. And that's because you need data nerds to analyze also sustainability data, not only ESG nerds. So I think that has helped us a lot in Jordanus to have made responsible the CFO and the controller team. And as an ESG director, my advice would be to be patient, pick your battles. It's impossible to do all at once. You have to do one thing at a time, and then I think we will succeed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sofie, again, for sharing your insights and experiences. But it's always powerful to see how these, the challenges that you've mentioned turn into concrete steps. And I think always a good partnership can also accelerate progress in the right direction. But now moving on from a company level challenge to more actions on the broader picture, the next step is to understanding the regulatory environment and how it evolves. And for that, I will hand it to Saskia and Lucas to take over. Sorry.
Great. Thank you, Rohan and Sofie, for that conversation. A couple of key takeaways for me was when Rohan shared that 90% of emissions for food and beverage companies sit within scope 3. And then when I look at the poll results from people dialed in today, where 35% of folks dialed in today said kind of the biggest challenge for them is that supplier engagement piece. Clearly, there's a lot of work to be done here. So I think this is the right discussion for us to be having today. And with that, we'll hand over to Lucas, who's going to do a bit of a deep dive into that regulatory landscape. What does it mean? How are you going to be impacted? Where are the opportunities? So Lucas, over to you.
Thank you very much, Saskia. Thank you, Sofie and Rohan, for the nice discussion. Hi, everyone. I am Lucas, the product manager here at the carbon calculations team at Normative. And I will very soon get to what our team is building for the food and beverage industry. But first, I want to start with a topic that is becoming more and more relevant for the sector, which is FLAG emissions. And for a long time, a really big part of the food industry's climate impact emissions from forest, land, and agriculture, or FLAG as they are commonly known, was just very tricky to measure in a consistent way. And that is starting to change now. And these emissions are now becoming a central part of your climate reporting. So let's take a look at what's bringing this topic to the discussion. And first of all, we have the soon-to-be-released Greenhouse Gas Protocol Land Sector Guidance. And this is basically a new rule book that is creating a standard way for everyone to calculate these emissions. On top of that, we have the Science Based Targets Initiative with its FLAG guidance, which now asks companies in the food sector to specifically set a specific flag target. And this is becoming a key requirement for getting your climate targets validated. And finally, we are seeing the evolution in climate regulations and things like CSRD are asking for a lot more detail on supply chains. So it's pretty likely that reporting on these land-related emissions will become more common there as well in the future. So the natural next question is, how do we actually do that? And that is why having the right data and the right tools is very important. And that's exactly what I want to show you now. So at Normative, we have a really powerful calculation engine, and we recently made some significant investments, specifically to serve our customers in the food and beverage sector. The best way to build a great product for us is to listen. So these investments have been based on customer feedback, and also we conducted interviews, we talked with our climate strategy team, and we really gathered a ton of feedback. And here are a few of the things that make our platform uniquely equipped to handle the challenges of your industry. So first, we believe that is about granularity. So our engine contains over 350,000 emission factors, and thousands of those are just for food and beverage products. And this means that you can get specific and work with both spend, activity, or supplier data, covering you wherever you are in your journey. And next is about the quality of that data. So we integrate with 18 different databases, including 4 that have a specific focus on food and agriculture. And this list will grow over time, of course, because we're always researching new databases that we can add to our product. But we don't just add any data source to Normative. Every single one of them goes through our scientific integrity framework, where we carefully assess those databases based on things like how recent the data is, the granularity, its alignment with the greenhouse gas protocol, and many other things. So we also know that the world of carbon accounting is always evolving. So our entire data platform is updated every 6 months, and this ensures that your inventory is always aligned with the latest science. And also, if new methodology appears, then we will include that as well. So yeah, we have this goal of always having providing our customers with the latest data and science. And apart from that, we also know that we can do it all alone. So we partner with leading industry experts like Climato and How Good, and this allows you to integrate the specialist data directly into Normative, and that gives you a seamless view from a single menu item or a single SKU, for example, all the way to your full carbon inventory. And finally, on top of all of that, we have our land-related emissions coverage, which is something that I am extremely, extremely proud of us having developed. It has been designed to give you the comprehensive data that you need to meet those new flag requirements that we just talked about. But before I show you how this works, I have a question for all of you in the audience. So where are you in your flag emissions journey? So you're gonna be able to see it in a poll on the side. So we will wait for results to come in. Let's see, results are coming in. Nice, I see that people are answering it. And so far, we have very interesting results where 33% of the people attending are still learning and exploring the requirements, and 26% haven't started yet, which is super interesting results. So the good news is that it does not matter where, if you are at the beginning of your journey, if you're in the middle. At Normative, we have developed a data model which calculates your flag emissions for you. And one of our goals is that we want to give you as much value from each line of data that you give to us as possible. So you provide data to Normative, and from this data, we calculate not only your normal emissions, but we also calculate your flag emissions and separate them so you can visualize them. And our new model includes calculations both from activity and spend-based data, and it is aligned, most importantly, with the SBTi and the greenhouse gas protocol. This new data model also comes with its own dedicated dashboard, so you can track progress on reducing your land-related emissions and understand the data gaps and improve your inventory. So you can see the dashboard here in the slide, and you can see, as an example, how your emissions have changed over time and what percentage of your emissions is being calculated from both activity and spend data, so you can keep track of how your data has been improving, as an example. And you can also focus on a specific year. So seeing what percentage of your total emissions are coming from flag and which commodities or suppliers are driving those emissions, because we want you to be able to focus so you can take actions where it really matters. So yeah, overall, this is what we have developed for you, and this is just the beginning. We will continue to work with our clients and listening in, taking in feedback to have a platform that is serving the food and beverage industry as best as we possibly can. So yes, thank you for listening, and now I will hand it over to Saskia.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lucas. And it's very cool to see the updates that you've been working on there. So we're incredibly proud that we've been able to bring flag missions into our products, but this really is just one piece of the puzzle. At Normative, we're continuously iterating and innovating, bringing in new data sets, building smarter models, and exploring new partnerships, because we want to make sure we're constantly building a product that's going to help you move away from estimating to more precise, accurate reporting. So we're very excited about this latest update, but there's always more to come there. So with that, we're going to move into the Q&A section, and thank you to everyone who's already been sharing questions. Just as a reminder, if you have a question, you can add it in the lower right-hand corner of the webinar screen. So the first question that we have says, hi, I lead on ESG for a motorway services areas company, and we have food retail operation. We buy food packaged and ingredients from suppliers and sell to customers. Currently, this is incorporated as Scope 3 Category 1. Will we be captured by the GHG land sector and removals guidance? I'm going to pass this one over to Rohan.
Can you hear me? I think should be, yeah, great. Thank you. That is a great question. But from the explanation, it feels like you're going to be in the downstream of food retailer than a producer. So typically the land sector or removal guidance is for companies that directly manage agricultural commodities where land use and biogenic carbons are material. Since you purchase it and report it in scope 1, it's likely that you'll have flag emissions, but you don't necessarily need to, or you will not be necessitated to follow or have a flag target yourself. Most of this responsibility will sit with the suppliers who are producing and processing these commodities. But having said that, the guidance does encourage retailers to understand and have a better engagement with your suppliers who do provide you with certain such services. So basically help you disclose flag related risks and disclosures. So it might be something that you can consider in your supplier engagement and reporting expectations over time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. The next question we have, I'm going to ask Lucas to answer, and this is, what kind of data do I need to start calculating flag emissions in Normative? Is spend data enough?
Yes, spend data is definitely enough for you to calculate your emissions with us. And I would suggest that as a start, we can start with spend, and then you can look at your hotspots and then gather activity data where you think that this is relevant. As I said, we want you to focus on the areas that are most important for you. But if you already have activity data for your operations, then we can also take the activity data and we can allow you to calculate your flag emissions with that as well. So yeah, come in with your data as it is, and we can work with that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. The next one, I think, is a good one for Rohan. How long does it typically take to go from starting flag calculations to producing something reportable?
Indeed, quite a good question. I would say it kind of depends on the data quality and availability of your data. If you already have a nice GHG inventory, then flag calculations can be done fairly quickly, as mentioned by my colleague Lucas. But if the data collection or engagement with this supplier is needed, then it might take some time. Again, with Normative, we try to make it as quick as possible. We try to generate insights from spend data and then build out more detail over time. But what I think is the case is most companies find the first cycle taking the longest, so basically building the inventory. But once the methodology is set in place, reporting becomes much faster in the following cycles.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Another question is, when will the flag emissions model be accessible in the platform? I can take that one. I'm happy to say the answer is now. It's available to use today. Another question, which would be, for Scope 3, what's the proportion of primary emissions data versus third-party emissions data used as proxy? I'll hand this one over to Lucas.
Yes, I think that depends. If you start calculating your data with just proxy data, we have that data a normative, but we always encourage you to engage with your suppliers and try to gather as much primary data as you possibly can. So at Normative, you're also able to engage with your suppliers through our VCE team, VCE module. So yes, so the proportion is up to that, but you can start with the activity secondary proxy data and then engage with your suppliers and increase the amount of primary data that you gather.
Thank you very much. Rowan, I've got another one for you. Are other food companies reporting on flag emissions already, or is this still early days?
Flag emissions in the food sector is relatively new, but I feel it's gaining traction. The last time I checked, probably July 25, late July 25, I have seen around 340s having a flag target in the Science Based Targets Initiative target setting dashboard. And I have seen companies like Unilever and Nestle already integrating flag into their sustainability strategies. So I can say that the sector is increasingly prioritizing, but as my colleague Lucas mentioned, SBTi has released this flag guidance, but we are still waiting for the GHGP land sector and removal guidance, which I think is due late 2025. So I feel despite some formal guidance missing or still pending, there is a draft version and most companies are moving ahead with it. One thing that I would say is that there is a significant opportunity for early adopters to lead in transparency and climate action in that space.
Great, thank you. And I guess slightly related to that, Rohan, can you give examples of the types of businesses that will be required to report on flag emissions land sector?
Yes. So SBTi has different sectors specified there. But basically, just to summarize, companies that are directly involved in producing, processing, or sourcing agricultural commodities, might be paper manufacturing, it can be food producers, could be beverage manufacturers, anything that has to do with land use and management needs to be reporting, essentially saying that if your operations or supply chain have a significant impact on clearing land or agriculture, flag reporting will be likely applicable. They also have a 20% threshold for other companies who report, and if emissions from flag represent more than 20%, you need to set a flag target according to the flag guidance from SBTi.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've got lots of questions coming in, and if we do run out of time, don't worry, we'll make sure we follow up after the session to individuals who have asked these questions as well. I've got another one here that's really interesting. So you mentioned using localized emission factors. Do you plan to incorporate mitigation actions at supply shed level? For example, if a company invests in field practices to reduce the crop carbon footprint, could the platform reflect that through more precise factors? I think this is a good one for you, Lucas.
Yes, the platform can definitely reflect those practices, but here I would also highlight that we have partnerships with Climato and How Good, and these companies have a very specialized service that can help you get to the emission factor that would reflect those practices, and you could see those results in the Normative platform. So we can definitely help you with that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that one. Just looking through the questions now, checking we have covered the majority of these. Yes, any more questions? We have a couple of minutes left. No. Okay, well, with that, obviously, please do not hesitate to reach out if you have additional questions. And as mentioned, we will be sharing the recording, so you'll have answers to the ones that have already been asked here, as well as access to the slides and the information shared today. I want to say a huge thank you to our guest of honour, Sofie, as well as Lucas and Rowan for joining us today, and everyone who's taken the time to dial in this afternoon. If you would like to learn a little bit more about what Normative could mean for you and your role or your business, please don't hesitate to reach out. We can arrange a consultation for you and a demo of our platform so you could dig into how this could impact the work that you're doing. So if you'd like to book in one of these conversations, simply scan this QR code, or you can book in directly on normative.io/demo, and a member of the team will reach out to you this week. And with that, thank you again for joining today. Thank you again to all of our speakers, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your week.